Hi everyone, I hope you guys are all having a great day. Today I sort of wanted to take a few minutes to have a discussion about audiobooks. I want to share some of my experiences with audiobooks, a couple of things that I've noticed and opinions I have, and then I'm open it up for discussion, and I want to know what you guys think about audiobooks. So I'll just go ahead and get started. So I want to start with sharing my experiences with audiobooks. When I was a kid, audiobooks were sort of just becoming common use. I can remember listening to them on car rides, and they were still on tape, I had a little Walkman, and then I would listen to my Harry Potter tapes or my Harry Potter CDs. And I can remember one time a teacher actually utilizing audiobooks in the classroom, where we got to sit in cubbies with our personal books while an audiobook was playing. We could follow along, and I just loved that. She was one of my favorite teachers. But so that was the limit of my audiobook experience. It was books that I was already familiar with, first of all, and books that were in one particular genre, fantasy. In particular, on audiobooks, for probably my first 10 years of experience with them, which was very limited in and of itself, I listened to Harry Potter, The Lord of the Rings, and the Chronicles of Narnia, and that was like it. And I think I tried on several different occasions to listen to other audiobooks, but they just didn't hit home for me, and I didn't end up enjoying it. So I just stuck with stories that I already knew. And I think the reason that worked for me was because I wasn't sure of audiobooks as sort of a way to consume stories. And so I just felt more comfortable listening to stories that I was already familiar with. But last year, I decided to sort of branch out a little bit because I wanted to be using some of my time a bit more productively, both on my way to work or when I'm going on walks here or when I'm working around the house. That's time where I might be doing nothing, especially when I'm walking, or obviously when I'm walking I'm doing something, when I'm cleaning I'm doing something, but that's time I could use to be experiencing stories. And as I'm expanding my reading goals this year, it's something I've had to utilize a lot of, because we're just so busy that I don't have as much time as I would like to just sit and read. Also, being an adult, I have to clean my own house and stuff. So either I have the TV on while I'm doing it and don't get much done, or I have an audiobook on while I'm doing it and I'm actually productive. So anyway, all that to say that I've started expanding sort of the stories that I'm listening to on audiobook, and I've really enjoyed that. I listened to Anne of Green Gables last year, which was just, I had never read the story before, but it was a ton of fun. I loved it. And I also listened to some familiar classics, like Pride and Prejudice and Northanger Abbey. And I chose those because, I already knew the story of Anne of Green Gables, even though I had never read the book. I was very familiar with Pride and Prejudice, pretty familiar with Northanger Abbey. These are all stories that I was comfortable with, and so listening to them in audiobook was just purely fun, okay? But I also found that audiobooks are a great tool for me when I'm struggling with a book for some reason or another. For example, I tried to read The Problem of Pain. I've tried to read it several times, probably over the past 5 years, but C.S. Lewis' language in The Problem of Pain is a little bit above my reading level, I think. And so I couldn't get into it. I couldn't get past his sentence structure and to really see into what his argument was. But so I chose to listen to it as an audiobook, and I think because our verbal vocabulary is wider than our reading vocabulary for most people, it was an easier endeavor, and I was able to sort of dive into The Problem of Pain and figure out what he was saying. To be fair, I still did have to listen to it 2 times to really to even begin to feel comfortable with his arguments, to really understand what he was saying and have an opinion on it, but at least the audiobook did help. I also used an audiobook to read Jane Eyre. I think I've spoken about this a few times previously, but I've tried to read Jane Eyre 2 times and DNF'd it 2 times because I couldn't handle it. I thought it was boring. But I wanted to read it for a book club, so I downloaded it from the Hoopla app thingy, which is free from your local library, or at least from many local libraries. And so listening to Jane Eyre as an audiobook really changed things for me. First of all, I could I don't know if this is cheating, but I had read all those scenes where she's at her aunt's house and she's at the school. I had read those scenes at least 2 times, probably even 3 times, so I sort of skipped right over that. And jumped in right at the middle of her schooling experience and listened on from there, and it really helped me enjoy the story. I probably could have gotten through it faster if I just read it myself, but slowing it down a little bit helped me process it, helped me really enjoy all the characters, and honestly helped me finish it because I had never gotten to that point before. So far, to sum up, as Ross would say, from Friends, sorry, that was weird. To sum up, so far, I've enjoyed listening to audiobooks that were either familiar stories to me, okay, and then I expanded a little bit farther into classics that weren't familiar to me, and even nonfiction, and audiobooks have helped me digest materials that I couldn't necessarily digest through reading, or I should say traditional reading, okay. And then last week, or the week before that, I decided, I had finished Jane Eyre, I had finished The Problem of Pain, and I had been thinking about reading A Man Called Ove, and I just wasn't sure because it was such a big deal. It was a bestseller, everybody was raving about it, and I didn't know if I was going to like it. So I just decided to sort of listen to it in a more risk-free way, or to experience it in a more risk-free way and just listen to the audiobook, and oh man, I loved it. I thought A Man Called Ove is probably my favorite book of this year, and I did not go into it expecting to like it, but I think one of the reasons I enjoyed it so much in audiobook was because the author's writing style is sort of succinct and real funny and typical old man kind of ornery. Not that the author is an old man, but the narrator the main character is an older man, real grumpy, and the author captured that so well, and that it was hilarious to listen to. And the narrator, the person reading the story, the narrator, right, captured that well as well. So I loved A Man Called Ove in audiobook. Based on that experience, I decided to try historical fiction. So a couple of days ago, I downloaded My Dear Hamilton, which is historical fiction about the wife of Alexander Hamilton, which I imagine has become popular because of how popular the play Hamilton was. It is still popular. But I sort of came across a stumbling block with this book. It's not good, guys, and I'm not sure I would have noticed how much I dislike it if I had been reading it in a more traditional form. I don't like the author's writing style, and it grates on me more because of the hearing it, I think, because I'm hearing it. I don't like the narrator. I think her southern accents are ridiculous and contrived, and I think because I'm sort of from the South and then have family who are in the South, I know what a southern accent is supposed to sound like, whether it's North Carolina, Virginia, or West Virginia, and the narrator does not capture it. And then today, I finally decided to DNF it because I was listening to it, and there's this one scene where the 2 main characters are standing next to each other, and it's supposed to be this moment of tension and romance, blah, blah, blah. And he talks about Alexander Hamilton's, is self-deprecating, says these 3 things that are wrong with him. And Eliza, is that her name? I don't even remember the main character's name. I don't even know what his wife's name was. Says something along the lines of, well, those are 3 things that a good wife can fix. And I just felt like puking in my car. That was, terrible. And obviously I would have caught that when I was reading it, but my reaction was so much more, I think, disgusted because I was hearing it. It was almost like watching it on TV. Like I was embarrassed for her for saying such a ridiculous thing. And so I'm just wondering what my reaction to this book would have been had I been consuming it in a more traditional manner, and as opposed to listening to it as I did in audiobook. I wouldn't have noticed the tacky southern accents. I would have noticed the way that she describes the southern accents, which is the same for every person, every time a southerner speaks, which is annoying, okay? But I wouldn't, the southern accent itself would not have grated on my nerves as much. So I think it's actually a combination of writing style and the narrator's style, which I find so frustrating with this particular book. So I ended up DNFing it. And I don't typically DNF a book, but I will if the writing style just bugs me, or if I don't like, that cheesy romance crap. I'm just not for it, okay? And so I did DNF My Dear Hamilton, which I think has the potential to be a really cool story. This particular telling of it was not for me, though. So all of my ramblings here have just led me to a sort of a conclusion that I think that when I hear an author's words, I'm processing it obviously differently than when I'm reading it. Not to say that audiobooks aren't reading, just to say that, it is a different brain process, and the writing style in an audiobook jumps out at me much more. So in My Dear Hamilton, it had a very negative effect on me, but I also want to touch on two positive ones. As I just mentioned a few minutes ago, A Man Called Ove was great, and I loved it. And the writing style was captured, I think, very well in the narrator's voice and the way that he chose to narrate it. And then also, the narrator of A Man Called Ove, the person who read the story, was not the author, so you never really know. But I did listen to Neverwhere recently, which was narrated by Neil Gaiman, the author of the book, and I thought it was great. I loved hearing, I had recently read the book, and my husband said that he thought that I would really enjoy the audiobook too, so I downloaded it, and it was narrated by the author, and I loved it because for sure you are getting exactly what he pictured when he is sort of portraying these characters, whether it's the main character who's this dopey Scotsman, I don't know, person from Scotland, or whether it's the bad characters who are creepy and, his voice is just perfect. So I don't know where I was going with that, but anyway, I just want to touch on two positive writing styles that I really enjoyed. So writing style really comes out in an audiobook, I think. So this leads me into a couple of questions for you guys. What are your favorite audiobooks? Do you feel that a certain kind of book fits better in an audiobook format than others? And what kind of audiobooks do you listen to? Do you only do like fantasy, or only do nonfiction, or only read classics that way, or do you just mix it up? Do you like to read audiobooks or not? And then the fairly controversial question, do you count audiobooks as reading? I don't know. I've chosen to. I tried to do a little bit of research on it yesterday to see if, so I'm a teacher, and I really like studying how the brain works when you're reading, especially with dyslexic students. And so I was wondering if there had been any research done on how the brain functions when you're listening to an audiobook as opposed to reading a book in front of you. But I couldn't find anything. It's not to say that research isn't out there, it's just that I only spent a half an hour looking for it. So if any of you know of any studies like that, let me know. I would love to hear about it. So I think that's pretty interesting too. So that's my sort of ramble about audiobooks. Let me know what you guys think. And then this is a completely different subject, but I sort of want your opinion on this. If you watch this channel, I would love to hear what you have to say. So I live in Alaska, and I do a fair amount of traveling within Alaska and hiking and things like that. Nothing particularly hardcore, like I'm not gonna go and hike Denali, but I do a little bit of hiking and traveling within the state, and I'm wondering if travel videos are something you guys might be interested in. On Saturday, my husband and I took a hike out to Symphony Lakes, which is about almost a 10-mile hike. And I decided to try and take some videos of it, and I'm going to try and put it together in a travel vlog, but I just wanted your opinion before I, get that out there. So do you guys, is that something you would like to see? Is that something you're interested in? Do you have any recommendations for other travel videos that you've enjoyed? Vlog? Is that what it's called? A travel vlog? I don't know. I don't feel comfortable with that word. But do you have any place in Alaska you guys would like to see? I'm going to Seward this summer for sure. I'm going to Denali for sure. And a couple of other places maybe here and there. So anyway, let me know what you think. If you have any opinions on the matter, or if, you're cool with whatever. Anyway, I've been rambling. I hope you guys all have a great day. Thanks. Bye.